So are we ready?
Dude's getting us ready, and he will give us a signal when we are live streaming, which is our golden signal that we are good to go.
Okay, we are live.
Okay. Looks like it's right at or close to 9 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. And Barry, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Well, the pledge has always been very meaningful. I think it's even more meaningful now. So we're in kind of tough times, I think. So, okay. Any changes to the?
Well, actually, Chair,
Sorry, we'll do a roll call. Pardon?
yeah.
Yeah, let's do a roll call, Tammy.
Commissioner Desmond,
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Here.
Commissioner Vargas is absent. Commissioner Kate.
Here.
Commissioner Salas.
Here.
Commissioner Vanderlin.
Present.
Commissioner Wells. Commissioner Wells is absent. Commissioner Willis.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Von Wilpert is absent. Alternate Commissioner McNamara,
McNamara is here.
present. Alternate Commissioner Mathis,
Present.
present. Alternate Commissioner Anderson will vote in place of Commissioner Vargas, who is absent. There's a virtual quorum with 8 members present per the governor's order. So ends roll call.
Okay, thank you.
And Chair, I'll just add that with Commissioner Wells absent as well, Commissioner McNamara will vote in his place as well.
Yes.
Okay, Joel, well, welcome aboard the LAFCO Commission. This is your first meeting, is that correct?
No, I was sworn in, but this is my first act of voting for Nora. That's correct.
Okay, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, under public comments, or anyone wants to make any comments right now before we get into the actual agenda?
Yeah, actually, well, Chair, let me do my disclaimer as part of the agenda review, and I can talk about how we'll go about getting public comment today, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yes. Sorry, I passed over you there.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. So, good morning, Commissioners. Keen Simons, your Executive Officer. So we don't have any changes to the agenda itself. What we published for the commission and we posted early last week is what we have for you today. And that includes a couple of public hearings involving some requested boundary changes up in North County. We also have a couple of business items of interest that I assume and expect will generate some discussion. And that includes, Commission, going back to the conversation we started in February about groundwater management in Palma Valley. Now, that said, we are once again set up in this virtual format to be able to take in public comment as you go through the agenda. We already have a number of registered speakers who are going to come forward at the chair's discretion on specific items. And then also, for those who are watching us online right now, if you would like to submit an email comment in real time, we will address that, address those comments that come in and convey them on to the commission. And the instructions are provided both on our agenda cover page as well as our home page at sdlafco.org. So that disclaimer noted, again, no changes to the agenda, Chair. We are good to go.
Okay. All right. So any public comment at this time?
Yeah, let's check in with Tammy. Tammy, do we have any registered speakers for public comment?
Yes, Executive Officer, we received one pre-submitted comment letter to be read for the record. And it's from Enrico Farrell, Orchard Advisors. It's to whom it may concern. I was made aware of a letter sent to San Diego LAFCO from the San Diego Water Authority on April 1st. The letter was sent to Mr. Adam Wilson for an ad hoc committee meeting on April 5th concerning the detachment of Rainbow and Fallbrook water agencies. The letter exemplifies the way the CWA operates when they face any opposition. As stated in the letter, CWA representatives had a meeting with the Farm Bureau Water Committee. They requested to come speak to the committee about the detachment of Rainbow and Fallbrook. What they failed to mention was that prior to the meeting, they implied that they did not want the meeting recorded. At the beginning of the meeting, and any time I communicated with CWA, I stated that I was not making comments on behalf of the Valley Center Municipal Water District or San Diego County Farm Bureau. I was representing myself as one of their customers. I was very candid with them about my thoughts on the matter, and while they correctly transcribed what I said, it was taken completely out of context. I did not at any time consent to my words in our private meeting being used to further their case with LAFCO, nor did I think they would make them public. Also, I have never discussed the way I feel about any of the actions being taken by CWA to either the Valley Center Municipal Water District Board of Directors or the San Diego County Farm Bureau Board of Directors. I find the misuse of any words disturbing. As such, I feel the need to fill in the gaps of the missing context. What I told CWA staff is that the actions taken by their board over the last couple of decades have severely impacted the agriculture areas of the county that rely on their supply. I cited specific examples from my experience since I began working in the county 24 years ago. I became a resident of San Diego County in 2004 after purchasing an avocado grove in Valley Center. When I started working in the county as a pest control advisor for citrus and avocado production, I had over 100 customers in the county. Groves were a big part of almost all of North County and its prolific industry. What I pointed out to CWA is that I am down to about 15 customers, mostly in the Palma Valley area, who rely in part or entirely on groundwater to irrigate their crops. I pointed out that I originally purchased my property for $24,000 an acre, and 17 years later can sell it for $15,000 an acre. I stated that now when I looked out my window, I'm surrounded by dead and removed groves, as that is a variable fact that the change in landscape, the important on grove management companies, on business supplying agriculture, on small farmers. And on my job can be attributed to constantly increasing high cost of water. I pointed that out when I purchased my grove. The cost of water was roughly the same as South Riverside County. I sold the grove located in Riverside County, part of Duluth, to move the Valley Center. CWA would tell you that the high cost of water here in San Diego is attributed to Municipal Water District of Southern California.
How do we get that off?
But that is just another alternative fact, fabrication. So to sum this up, I'm not surprised that Standards & Poor's have negative outlook on detachment, as I already feel that CWA is a sinking ship. Sincerely, Enrico Farrell. So ends the comment letter.
Chair, could I get a request a copy for that letter, please?
Yeah, we'll actually get that posted on our website by the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Record. Thank you, Tammy. And so now, that being the only registered speaker who wanted to comment to the commission, now let's check in, Chair, with Eric to see if we've received any email comments.
Good morning, everyone. Give me just a second. Let me double check.
Okay.
So as of right now, I have not received any live email comments for item 4, public comment.
Thank you, Erica. So Chair Vanderlyn, I think we are done with public comment.
Okay, good. So that was item 4. We're now on item number 5, which is the consent calendar. These can be taken all at once, or they can be pulled if anyone wants to do that. So what's your pleasure here? Do you want to do a single vote for the consent items or break them up?
I'll move to approve the entire consent calendar.
Okay,
McNamara seconds.
thank you. Yeah, is there a second? Oh,
McNamara seconds.
oh, sorry. Thank you. Any comments on the motion? No? Seeing none or hearing none, a roll call vote, please. Tammy?
Commissioner Vanderleen,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis.
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner McNamara.
Yes.
So 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Okay, that takes us to the public hearing items then. First
That
one,
it does.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it does. And Chair, so under 6A, which is the proposed Rancho Corrido RV park reorganization, I'm going to ask our Chief Policy Analyst, Robert Berry, to provide the staff presentation. Robert.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission members. The first public hearing item we have is the Rancho Corrido RV Park reorganization. We do have a very brief staff presentation with a couple of slides. Thank you. This proposal is a reorganization of approximately 31.3 unincorporated acres in the Palma Valley area. It is occupied with an operating recreational vehicle park that is permitted by the County of San Diego under an existing major use permit. This map shows the location of the proposal area, which is highlighted in the set in North County in the Palma Valley area. Can you move that forward, please? The area in red is the proposal area, and it's
Did you want some coffee?
Oh, I have some.
Okay.
sorry, the proposal area is shown in red on the map here. The yellow area is the surrounding area of Uima Municipal Water District. Uima Municipal Water District has initiated this proposal by resolution. It's requesting annexation of the proposal area, including the operating RV park, to the Uima Municipal Water District for water service. In response to a failing on-site drinking water system that's on groundwater. And the state of California has identified this drinking water system as failed due to contaminants of nitrates in the groundwater, and has recommended immediate annexation to a public water source as remediation for the failing drinking water system. Uima has initiated the proposal. Uima MWD is a member agency of the County Water Authority. Their boundary is coterminous with their sphere. They are also a member of the San Diego County Water Authority, which provides imported water to its member agencies, including Uima MWD. And the Water Authority is a member agency of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which is the wholesaler for imported water into San Diego County. So the proposal to annex to Uima MWD as a county water authority then also involves concurrent annexations to the wholesalers, the County Water Authority and Met, in addition to concurrent sphere amendments to bring the proposal area into the spheres of influence for all three agencies. So the reorganization involves 3 annexations and 3 sphere amendments to include the proposal area, and again is remediation to a failed drinking water system. Staff is also recommending a small modification of the proposal area to include the frontage portion of State Route 78 to achieve consistency with Uima's border. And we have received no opposition to this proposal. There is a demonstrated need for the service for the health and safety of the existing residents of the RV park. It's approximately 120 spaces. Under the Environmental Quality Act, we have determined that this annexation would be exempt because the extension would only go to serve the existing major use permit use. There would be no expansion of the RV park, and it would simply be to remediate the existing drinking water system. In addition, the sphere amendments would also be seen as not subject to environmental review as planning actions. So again, we've received no opposition to this. We have support from UEMA, the County Water Authority, and MET. The boards of the Water Authority and MET have adopted conditional approvals per the County Water Authority Administrative Code. And those would be satisfied prior to recordation per requests from Water Authority and MET staff, and also in correlation with respect for their conditions of approval. Our staff recommendation is to approve the proposal as modified to include the small portion of State Route 78. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Are there any questions from commissioners before we open the public hearing?
I'll just, for discussion's sake, move to approve this item. Desmond.
Anderson seconds.
I'm sorry, who was that on the second?
Anderson.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Do we need to open the public hearing here, Keen?
We do need to open up the public hearing, and just for the record, because this is an inhabited territory, we want to make sure that we are going to proceed in waive protest proceedings so long as the commission does not receive any objections from landowners or residents, registered voters at this time. So I don't believe, and let me check with Tammy, do we have any registered speakers for this item?
None, Executive Officer.
So Chair, let's check in then with Erica just to double down and make sure that there are no email comments, and in particular, any objections to waiving protest.
Let me just double check. So far, no live email comments for item 6A.
I think we're good, Chair.
Okay, so we open and close the public hearing then, for the record?
Yeah.
Okay. So done. Any further questions or comments on item 6A? Hearing or seeing none, Tammy, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure, Chair. Commissioner Wells? I'm sorry, he's absent. Commissioner Salas?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Aye.
Commissioner Cates?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderlyn?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Alternate Commissioner McNamara?
Aye.
So we have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 6B, proposed Mimosa Avenue reorganization. Who will speak on that, Keen?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to actually go ahead and pinch hit for Linda on this item. And this too, like Robert's item before it, is going to be relatively quick. Commission, what you have before you is a request that was generated by an interested landowner to reorganize a little less than an acre worth of unincorporated territory for purposes of annexing into the city of Vista, and at the same time detaching out of Vista Fire Protection District. Now, the affected territory as proposed in the application materials is parcel specific. It involves one developed residential duplex with a site address of 721, 723 Plimosa Avenue, and you can see it up on the screen. And in looking at the map that we have, you can tell that this is part of a rather large unincorporated pocket, okay, existing between Vista to the west and San Marcos to the right, or to the east. Now, the commission many moons ago decided that as this area begins to develop and require more intensified urban services, that it should be done with the city of Vista as the land use authority. And I say that because the entire pocket, including the affected territory, is in Vista sphere. That means, Commission, today, this is really about you weighing in on whether you believe the timing of the jurisdictional changes makes sense relative to all the things that LAFCO law in your policies require. And so certainly in deference to our report, we've detailed that the timing is right, that this proposal should go forward, and it gets incrementally better. And you can go ahead and shut down the screen. Thanks, Stu. But the proposal gets a little bit better if you exercise some discretion in taking the adjacent right-of-way on Plamosa Avenue, a modification that has not generated any concerns from either the county or the city of Vista. So with that said, our set of actions are all provided as alternative action 1 in our recommendation. That does include a sphere amendment for Vista Fire Protection District, and that's the reason you're considering this item not on consent, but as part of a formal public hearing. So with that, Chair, I will turn this item back to you for the hearing, then ultimately consideration of the recommendation.
Are there any comments on this item before we open the public hearing?
I have a comment or question for staff. Looking at the adjacent parcels, did LAFCO do any outreach to the adjacent parcels they wanted to annex at the same time? Or is there a requirement of the applicant to do that public outreach?
So through the chair, Commissioner McKenzie, staff did not do any direct outreach, but the applicant in this case technically is the city of Vista. I believe they do their own informal survey of adjacent landowners. But in this case, there was no interest. And so the application we received was parcel specific to the lone known interested party.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers at all, Tammy or Erica?
Chairman, I received no speaker slips for this item. No
Okay,
registered speakers.
thank you. Erica, anything on your side?
Let me double check. So no live email comments.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Seeing that, we'll close the public hearing. Motion would be in order at this point.
I make a motion that we go with the staff recommendation.
Second,
You have a second, Joe, your second?
yeah.
Okay, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes,
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes,
Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
yes,
Alternate Commissioner McNamara,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
So we have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
okay, thank you. We'll go to the business items now. I think the one we've been waiting for is item 7A, the draft municipal service review on the Poway region.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly staff has been waiting for it. I don't know if all of our guests are, but nevertheless, thank you. I'm going to start this item off before handing over the presentation to Priscilla Allen. And the item itself involves staff bringing forward for discussion a draft municipal service review on the Poway region as part of not only our adopted work plan, but our longer term schedule. And I wanted to note a couple of things for my benefit as you take this item in and you hear from Priscilla. And the first comment I think worth framing the discussion is that this is the first one of these studies that your present staff has brought to you that includes a municipality, in this case, the city of Poway. Now, why highlight this feature? Well, because in this document, we have expanded the typical analysis or factors of analysis that we have been giving to the commission as part of our kind of special district centric studies to date. And in particular, you will see LAFCO staff weighing in on some municipal services that we just haven't engaged this commission in yet, in particular, community development and housing. And so as you digest this study and you hear from Priscilla, certainly we are interested in hearing from you, Commission, as to whether staff's approach on these topics, again, housing and community development, and how they relate to orderly growth. We certainly want to make sure that we are aligned with your temperature on these items. Last on my end, I just wanted to identify the thresholds that we have for the commission today in taking up this item. Ultimately, we're asking, do you collectively believe that we've hit the mark in generating this draft report? If so, great. That means that Priscilla can proceed after today's hearing and initiate a formal public review of the document, and then endeavor to come back to you perhaps as early as June with a final document along with some associated actions. Now, if we haven't hit the mark, it happens. What we'll do is we'll go back, work on updating the draft based on your specific feedback, and give it another go, perhaps as early as your May meeting. So those thresholds noted, let me turn this item over to Priscilla to tell us what we have learned to date. Priscilla.
Yes, thank you for teeing that up for me, Keen. So before getting started, if you could pull up the presentation for me. So yes, good morning. My name is Priscilla Allen, analyst with San Diego LAFCO. Today I'm going to be going over the municipal service review for the Poway region. This is our draft, as Keen said, so for April 2021. I'll first begin by giving just a quick overview of the municipal service review, kind of its purpose, what it involves. Next slide for me, please. So MSRs independently evaluate services relative to informing LAFCO's regulatory and planning functions. They serve as an instrument to the commission within state law to exercise a considerable amount of power to facilitate boundary changes or initiate on its own certain reorganizations, such as forming, consolidating, or dissolving special districts, which was the case with the city of Poway. And this is what the MSR really focuses in on, is how 40 years ago, the commission took action in dissolving 5 special districts and incorporating the city of Poway as that successor agency, and really confirming that that's been successful. So this MSR focuses on the city of Poway. It does not focus on the special districts. There are 2, there are special districts within the area, 2 being one, the Pomerado Cemetery District, and then the Palomar Healthcare District as well. But again, this MSR focuses on the city. So we'll move on to the next slide, where Dew is going to move through a Google Earth, which will show us the city of Poway and the surrounding area. I'll let him catch up there, and I'll speak a little bit on the Poway region. So Poway is the 4th largest municipality in terms of size. It does encompass approximately 39 square miles within a jurisdictional boundary within inland central San Diego. It's immediately adjacent to the west and south by the city of San Diego, as you see there. And then you have the unincorporated territory of Ramona to the east. Very nice. Thank you, Dew.
It's a nice feature with the map.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dew, for that. And so then if we move on to the next slide, this will just give you, those set boundaries as you look at the map. And as you look at this jurisdictional boundary, close to 1/3 of the jurisdiction has been set aside as preserved natural open space, which is really unique to this area. And this includes Lake Poway, which doubles as a prominent recreational site as well as a municipal water reservoir. I don't know if any of you have hiked in that area, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So if you haven't, I definitely encourage you to do so. But stay on topic and going on to the next slide. I want to just give you a little bit of background and context before moving on to some of our central themes and recommendations as part of this report. So Poway had small beginnings. Its first official census for the township was performed in 1870, and it had an estimated resident population of 91 residents. And then in 1980, it incorporated after 2 other failed attempts at incorporation, but were finally successful, and they self-identified as the city in the country. And this incorporation included, as we've said, the reorganization and dissolution of 5 special districts, and they've been successful. And they're now a full-service municipality with a few limited exceptions. The biggest one to bring up is just the law enforcement being contracted out through the county, but otherwise are a full-service municipality. Their governance is provided by a 5-member council with a directly elected mayor. And Poway has really slowly grown with an estimated population now of approximately 49,000 residents, which really stays true to their mantra of city in the country. And as we move on to some of our key takeaways, as part of this report and things that we've learned, I'll start off with number 1. If you can move on to that next slide for me, do. Number 1 being something that our executive officer touched on. This one being our introductory and inaugural municipal service review dedicated to the Poway region. And it's been a little bit of a learning curve, from city and staff as we establish this baseline. But we believe we've been successful, and in the intention of also expanding or also redirecting analysis in future reports as the commission sees fit. This report also serves to revisit and confirm that the commission got it right 40 years ago. The city as successor agency to 5 special districts has proven to be successful in directly syncing services with development within its jurisdictional boundary. And Poway is not your standard suburban community. They're very unique in its geographic setting that both encompasses East and North County orientations, which contributes to this atypical suburb and that unique growth footprint, which has created this, they've created a municipal green belt, which again remains true to their tagline of being a city in the country where they balance both rural and urban elements within their region. And with this, they've created distinguishing demographics. And this is shown within their resident base that's instinctively different from other parts of the county. This is a wealthier area, an older area, and have higher levels of formal education. With that, though, when we come to number 6, housing and impact on orderly growth. So this idea that housing that LAFCO focuses on as part of the municipal service review with regard to providing affordable housing and accommodating housing for all income levels. Because of Poway's slower growth orientation, they do have challenges in generating housing relative to that of the county. This has also created a wealthier bracket within Poway. But overall, there's no red flags. It seems, by our measurements that we don't identify any issues in their ability to, sync those services and provide for their present and future needs. Poway also has a very positive financial standing. They do have one exception, but we're not saying that this is unique to Poway within the county. However, their pension obligations are straggling the line between solvency and then also the need to make difficult decisions in the future. So these are the main takeaways. So as we move on to our recommendations, these are directly tied to the themes that I've just covered. I won't go a deep dive into each one, but you see them here on your screen. So 2 and 3, with regard to Poway's general plan and then housing, those 2 correlate with the theme of housing and impact on orderly growth. And we believe that this shouldn't just be a focus for Poway, but also for San Diego LAFCO when we revisit the city of Poway in future reviews. And then 6 and 7 on the next slide, these are based on our assessment that, again, Poway is a successful reorganization. In addition, and in contrast with other MSRs, Poway proves to be a successful agency, and this is really an overall great municipal service review. So with that, Commission, I'm going to end the presentation. So thank you so much for your attention. I know we did receive one letter from the city of Poway, and we have Craig Reese, I believe, the Economic Development Administrator with the city of Poway on the call today as a registered speaker. But for now, I'll turn it back to Keen, and I'll be ready to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. And Commission, I do want to point out, Priscilla has done a great job picking up this study. She is the third project manager we've had on this for a variety of reasons. And so I very much appreciate Priscilla taking this study and bringing it to the commission today. So as Priscilla mentioned, Chair, we do have one speaker who happens to be the author of the letter that we received after the agenda posting. And we are ready to get feedback as the commission sees fit on this item.
Thank you. Very thorough report, Priscilla. Breaking some new ground here. We appreciate the kind of leading us into what we'll be working on more in the future. So I've forgotten the speaker's name. Are you there?
Tammy.
Perfect.
Yes, and I'm here. No, I just wanted to say thank you to Keen and Priscilla for the opportunity to work with them on this project. We submitted a letter with all of our comments, and I'm just here really to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, excuse me. Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Craig Ruiz, and I work for the city of Poway.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ruiz? Yes. Hand raiser.
Yeah, hand raiser is Mary Salas. Hey, Craig.
Here's my hand.
Huh? Oh, see, I don't see my little raise hand button. Okay.
Go ahead, go ahead, Mary. Sorry.
You're on, Mary.
I just want to say, Craig, thank you for your report. And we miss you in the city of Chula Vista, but hope you're thriving in Poway.
Thank you, Mayor Salas.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the speaker?
Yes.
If not,
Craig, so my biggest question is, do you have any problems with any of the wording of the, first of all, it's an amazing piece of work, Priscilla, so, and all staff involved. I looked at all the stats and everything, but well, that's a huge volume of work. But Craig, do you have any issue with the wording?
No, we are, as we said in our letter, we're in agreement with the report. We just wanted to point out some of the highlights of what's been happening in the last couple of years as it relates to our housing production, how we have taken steps. But we are in agreement with the overall document and findings.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Priscilla or anything regarding this issue? I don't see any hands. Oh, yes, I do, Barry.
Well, I just want to make a motion that we do go forward with the staff recommendation or the MSR as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Well, actually, if I could, so I appreciate the eagerness. This is actually just for discussion, and the question for the commission, and I'm not hearing any pushback, is general agreement that we should proceed with the formal public review that includes an opportunity for residents in the community to come forward, and then Priscilla will bring back a final report, hopefully as early as June. So that's really the game plan. And if there's no redirection for staff to look into anything else, affirmative nod heads noted, we are good, Chair.
Well, I guess I'm confused, Keen, because on the agenda it does say action item under 7A.
I apologize, Barry. You're
okay.
Correct. So
okay. All right. So the action's coming forth.
Thank you.
Later. Okay. Good.
Okay. Does everyone understand that? We all clear on where we are? Okay. Once again, good job on the staff report. We'll look forward to the coming back to us, and it seems like there's a general consensus that we're on the right track here. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, I think so.
All right, we'll move on to item 7A.
B.
B, I'm sorry, excuse me, thank you. 7B. Ken, you want to give us a lead in on this one?
Yes, Chair Keen Simons, I'll go ahead and pinch hit for Linda on this item too. Linda is a bit under the weather today, but I still may call on Linda in case something technical comes up, as well as Commission Counsel. But 7B is definitely, at least we're proposing it to be for action today. It's the addendum to the final municipal service review on resource conservation districts. And it's an addendum, Commission, that we have prepared at your earlier direction, and it's to address a holdover item, okay, from us wrapping up the service review that we had prepared on resource conservation districts, or RCDs, back in February. And let me stop here. As much as I agree that acronyms are difficult to listen to, there's no way around this in giving this presentation. So just be aware, and if I catch anyone off guard, let me know, and I'll define some terminology if I haven't already. But the holdover issue is specific, Chair and Commission, to reconciling the Commission's duty anytime we interact with special districts as part of municipal service reviews, and the requirement in statute that you set and regulate all districts' service functions and classes. Take that directive from the state and then pair it with this unresolved question we have specific to the Upper San Luis Rey Resource Conservation District. And in particular, the holdover and the cause for pause for staff when we were discussing this last in February is making sense, LAFCO sense, of Upper San Luis Rey's authorized service functions and classes, and in particular, whether it includes groundwater management, given the district's current activities as a member of the Palma Valley Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, or GSA, okay? This is the context to why we are now 2 months later bringing you this addendum that, if approved, would change and update the MSR record, okay? So the addendum, as you can see on the screen, focuses in on this issue of groundwater management. And ultimately, just to jump right to the core conclusions and deferring to the staff report for the details, and certainly the addendum for the details, generates three key conclusions that, taken as a whole, move the needle at LAFCO and suggest, yes, updating the MSR record is appropriate. Let's start with the very first and most pertinent conclusion that we have generated through this 2-month process. And that is, we believe Upper San Luis Rey RCD does not have existing authorization under LAFCO statute, again, under LAFCO statute, to provide groundwater management, since the activity itself came about after the year 2000, and that is the trigger date for us by way of the legislature to determine if something has been grandfathered in or not, right? So in 2000, the legislature made it explicitly clear that you and your 57 commissions in the state are responsible for establishing and then regulating when special districts make changes to their service functions and classes, whether that be through the activation or through the divesting process. So this key conclusion, however, gets qualified a bit, certainly, in number 2 on the screen. And that is, LAFCO staff equally believes that we should stay agnostic with respect to whether Upper San Luis Rey RCD has some superseding authorization to provide groundwater management through the state, and specifically through the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2016, or SGMA, right? Put this in a more layman's terms, we're responsible for administering LAFCO law, and it's clear to us that Upper San Luis Rey does not have the authority in LAFCO statute right now to provide groundwater management, but we're not the administrator of SGMA. And so whether this district has some type of pass to provide groundwater management irrespective of LAFCO, not our call, and we're deferring to the state to make that call. Taken together, and this gets to what is the impact of this addendum on Upper San Luis Rey RCD? Well, really, there is no impact to this district right now if the commission proceeds with this addendum, because what we are saying is so long as Upper San Luis Rey's groundwater management activities stay within the bounds of the GSA, we're not going to get involved. The only way, commission, that our addendum affects the RCD is if two things happen in the future. And there's no saying that this is going to happen, but just to be clear, the two scenarios in which the addendum affects the RCD is if the state decides to determine that the RCD does not have authorization under SGMA to provide groundwater management, well then obviously LAFCO law would clearly be the issue to address. The other scenario in which the RCD could be affected by this addendum is if for some reason they evolve and expand their groundwater management activities beyond the GSA, right? These are the only two scenarios that we can conceive that our addendum creates a impact right now on the RCD, or for that matter, the GSA. Now, that said, being the reconciling type, we have a third conclusion, and it's in the form of a recommendation that the district should, on its own, consider applying with you, the commission, to formally authorize and establish groundwater management as a class of service under its water conservation function. It's something that needs to be initiated by the district, not LAFCO. And with no presupposing of approval or denial, that gets the district at least on track to harmonize their authority to provide groundwater management through LAFCO with whatever authorization they may have under SGMA. So let's come to a stop here and acknowledge this is a very nuanced topic. They don't teach this at the first day of planning school, but we think the addendum before you provides a good process and is fair to both LAFCO's responsibilities without presupposing any responsibilities or powers under SGMA. Again, defer to the state for that. Now, in taking this item up, a couple of items or a couple of side items for the commission to be aware of. You do have an alternate conclusion that has been generated by a working group created by the Special Districts Advisory Committee. And this working group is represented by a couple of people on the phone today, Paul Bushy and Jack Beebe. And they reached a separate and different conclusion than your staff. They separately have concluded that they believe Upper San Luis Rey RCD did establish a like groundwater management activity before 2000 and has maintained that activity since. And as such, the assertion is they're grandfathered in. They don't need any LAFCO authorization or approval. We respectfully disagree, but I know we have, again, Paul and Jack on the phone to speak to their conclusion. And then separately, we did receive a couple of late written submittals on this topic. Late Friday, we received a rather large document from the Palma Valley GSA through UEMA, MWD. And in short, they object to the staff recommendation. They object to you proceeding and approving with the addendum, and instead ask this commission to go down the path of what this Special Districts Advisory Committee working group has concluded. And again, we have representatives from Palma Valley, GSA, and UEMA, and others who can speak to the details of their letter. That letter generated a response from the Indian Water Authority through an email. And I should say both of these letters have, I think, been transmitted in PDF form to the commission and for the public. They are also posted online right now at our meetings page. The email response generated from Bill Pellman with the Indian Water Authority this concludes with supporting the staff recommendation and identifying issues with the Palma Valley GSA position. And I believe we have Mr. Pellman online today to speak in more detail. So we've covered some ground. Again, this is a nuanced topic. We have our recommendation to approve the addendum as presented. So with that and being ready to go into details as the chair and commission sees fit, I will turn it back to Chair Vanderlyn.
Thank you, King. Nice report. Please pass on to Linda that it was a great job on that one too. A little difficult to work around all the stuff that's going on there. Any questions of King before we open it up to the public comment? Barry, I see you have your hand up.
Well, I want to make a motion, but I don't want to be premature until we get to the speakers.
Yeah, I think we should do that. Any other questions then before we open up for public comment? Okay. I don't know who all's on online, but we have 9 names here of people that want to speak on this issue. Just a question, is there any organized presentation where in terms of order, or you all have a joint idea on this, or we just go right here?
Chair, we took some liberty to essentially put the speakers in order as they registered. So Tammy has the list. I think there are 9 or 10 Tammy speakers who have requested to be on this item. And Chair, if you're good with it, we could just ask Tammy to call name by name. And I think if a member is representing an agency or other formal organization, Tammy, we give them 5 minutes. And if they're just members of the public, we give them 3 minutes. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay, so Chair, with your blessing, why don't we defer to Tammy to handle this part?
Okay, Tammy, you're on.
Thank you, Chair. My first registered speaker is Andy Lyle with Upper San Luis Rey.
Hello, good morning. My name is Andy Lyle. I'm the president of the Upper San Luis Rey Resource Conservation District. Thank you for giving me the time to speak this morning. I appreciate the time and effort that staff is dedicated to this important question. And I also like to thank the Special Districts Advisory Committee Working Group, Ms. Thorner, Mr. Bushy, and Mr. Beebe for weighing in on this item. I believe their conclusions summarized in the attached email from Ms. Thorner should be strongly considered by the commission. I'd also like to thank Mr. Beebe and Mr. Bushy for being on the meeting today. However, if the commission does decide to move ahead with this addendum presented, I want to make sure that it's clear that LAFCO's issue is only concerning work done by the Upper San Luis Rey RCD outside of SGMA. Since the RCD is working under SGMA, I don't believe that the RCD needs to activate a groundwater class through LAFCO. I believe Mr. Simon's presentation addressed some of these issues, but I'm asking for a confirmation and a clarification of that before you take action on this item. So I'm requesting that Executive Director Simons make clear to the commission that if this addendum is adopted, the Upper San Luis Rey RCD is in compliance with LAFCO as long as the RCD participates in groundwater management as a part of the Palma Valley GSA within the boundaries of the GSA. Also, I'm asking for confirmation that the Upper San Luis Rey RCD has no legal requirement to apply for a groundwater management classification under LAFCO as long as the RCD is participating in the Palma Valley GSA under SGMA. It appears that there are 2 separate items or separate issues as Mr. Simons presented, that there's groundwater management inside of SGMA and outside of SGMA. So as right now, the RCD is working inside of Sigma. So I believe there is no issue and need to activate a groundwater management class. Item number 6 here in your addendum says should. So I'm asking for clarification on the term should, because it doesn't seem like there is a legal need to activate a groundwater management class right now, because we are not managing groundwater outside of Sigma, or we don't have any role in groundwater management outside of Sigma. This concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Kane, do you want to comment on his request now, or wait till we're all done here?
I'm taking notes, so I'll be ready to perhaps commingle some responses based on the lot of input provided.
Okay, so we'll come back to you when all the speakers have spoken then. Tammy, go ahead. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Bobby Garzino with Palmer Valley Community Service District. I'm not sure if he's on the line.
Bobby, are you on the phone?
Morning, Bobby. Is he on the line? Maybe he's not on there.
I don't think so. We'll come back to that
Okay.
one. Go to the next one, Tammy.
Oh, he just emailed, said he's unable to call in for 7. I'll see. Can you check with Erica and see what his comments were for Bobby Garzino?
Okay, we'll check with Bobby and you can.
Okay. My next one is Bo Mazzetti with Indian Water Authority.
Bo, are you there?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to share some information with you folks. First of all, the San Luis Rey Indian Water Authority consists of the 5 reservations on the San Luis Rey River, who we've been working together for years. Actually, we just, in May of 2017, finalized a 50-year litigation for water rights. So we've finally accomplished that. What I want to do is share some information with you folks. First of all, when the Sigma was passed and the tribe started to work with our local communities, we've all been here a long time, our neighbors. So we formed a GSA. The tribes immediately put up $400,000 to help our neighbors with the GSA. The tribes hosted and paid for the majority of all of the meetings during the formation and development of the GSA. By the time we were ready to, how are we going to vote? How is the GSA going to work? We agreed that it would take 80% approval of vote to vote on the various issues. The folks, Palmer Valley, all of us, we all were in agreement with that. So the next thing was to move to develop the GSP, Groundwater Sustainability Plan. All the items except one were agreed to. The one item that seemed to pose a problem was addressing the tribe's federal reserved water rights, which have been established by a 50-year-long suit. So this water rights are established. Well, the working group trying to put together the RFP for the company engineering firm to do the GSP, Groundwater Sustainability Plan, could not reach agreement on addressing how are we going to address federal reserved water rights, Indian water rights. It broke down at that point. We don't want to address it. A few people in the GSA then decided they don't want to address, did not want to address Federal Reserve water rights because they thought that that was admitting that we have water rights. Well, we do. There's nothing to admit. Those have been established by court order, so that's not an issue. We could not get past how are we going to address any reserve water rights in the GSP. Things then kind of fell apart. We worked with the state. We worked trying to get things back together. Then a new group decided to form, utilizing the Upper San Luis Rey Conservation District. Okay. This new group then intentionally excluded tribes. I want to make that clear, intentionally. Now, what you probably heard is the tribes were invited to participate. Yes, they were, as ex officio members only. We would have no say-so. I want to make that clear. We'd have no say-so. The other thing I wanted to make clear is we worked so good together, the first group, the first GSA, that the excuse me, State of California Department of Water Resources was actually going to do a training video on what an outstanding procedures and process was evolved by the San Luis Rey GSA, having 5 different tribes involved, and how good everything worked and how we worked to reach agreement. Okay. Again, when we went to finalize the RFP to do the groundwater plan, that's where things fell apart. But at this point, the whole process that the Upper San Luis Rey Conservation District trying, it's intentionally, I want to make that clear, no question about it, intentionally to exclude tribes. Now, why will this not work? Because 40%, I want to make that clear, 40% of the land within the groundwater basin that has to fall under the GSP is owned by Indian tribes, 40%. So if you're going to exclude the tribes, how are you going to do it?
Someone needs to turn off their.
That's an echo going on there.
Yeah.
But we have a short time frame. The state, the thing that the state, we're going to the state, we want the state to take over the tribes. That's not correct. We went to the state to try to get the state to intervene to resolve this issue about excluding the tribes from being part of the GSA. And ultimately the GSP, the plan. That's where the tribes are coming from. So we've made every effort. At this point, we're being excluded. I think you folks are, I want to make sure that the San Luis Rey Water Authority, who I'm here on behalf of, we support your recommendations and your report. We believe it's accurate. It's being reported to the commission by the staff. So we support that. Like I say, we just don't know what else to do. You know, we've tried to be good neighbors. We've been there with all these folks. Our prayers go back with a lot of the folks that are on the other side of the fence. Well, we know them all. It's too bad we've come to this situation. But we're intentionally being excluded. I don't know how to say it. You know, we don't have much time. The plan has to be submitted, I believe, at November of 2021. And it definitely has to be in by 2022. The plan has to be submitted and reviewed. So we don't have much time. If we're going to participate, and the tribes are willing to participate, but not with their hands tied behind their back and no vote. That's just not going to happen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mazzetti. Are there any questions?
I had a couple questions for Mr. Mazzetti. First, could I interject? Okay. Well, I'm sorry. We've been trading phone calls, so I'm looking forward to talking to you in the near future. Could you please clarify what you mean by the 80% vote when you first started?
What we decided when the GSA was formed, put together, everything was moving fine. We said, okay, you have to have 80% of the members vote in order for something to occur. That way there was equal voting on both sides. Not one group, the tribes or Palma or anybody else, would have the controlling factor. We split that so you have that 80% vote. See, that way no one group could control it. The tribes couldn't control it, and the other members from Palma Valley couldn't control it. We had to work together. It was a really unique situation, and it was good. It was good. It's just too bad that some folks got involved, and I really think they don't want to admit that we have Federal Reserve water rights. I mean, they're established. There's nothing to admit. but that's the key factor that they would not put in the work plan addressing those Federal Reserve water rights.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Mazzetti? Well, we appreciate your plight here. We'll see how this thing works
Thank you,
out.
Bo. Thank you, Bo.
Thank you.
Okay, Tammy, next speaker.
Chair,
please.
my next speaker is Amy Ree with the Waima Municipal Water District.
Amy, are you on?
She's here.
I am. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I appreciate this time to speak. You know, I planned to speak directly about the addendum, but I just feel I need to clarify some of Mr. Mazzetti's comments because I believe that he is misinformed of some facts. First and foremost, the Indian Water Authority was not part of the GSA. In fact, the Memorandum of Understanding that the Indian Water Authority was part of was only to develop a GSP. And it specifically states in that Memorandum of Understanding that it did not affect the governance structure of the GSA. So the Indian Water Authority was never part of a GSA. They were only part of an MOU to develop the groundwater sustainability plan. Secondly, the tribes did not put up $400,000. In fact, the only entities that did put up any money towards the development of the plan was the Palma Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency, Valley Center Municipal Water District, and Rainbow Municipal Water District. At no point in time did the tribes put up $400,000. In fact, the MOU only stated that they would put up $150,000, not $400,000. And also, Mr. Mazzetti is correct. The tribes have been invited as an ex officio member. However, most recently, and Mr. Mazzetti will not, I've tried to reach out to him several times and he will not communicate with me. The GSA has been developing a JPA that we'd like the tribes to participate in, and we're asking them and we're giving them a vote in that JPA. And if he would communicate with me, he would be aware of that fact. But the tribes are, every time we have a GSA meeting, they're invited to participate and they don't. They're invited to participate in the stakeholder outreach and they don't. And stakeholder outreach is meant for stakeholders to work on the plan together with the GSA, and they don't. And I just want to make sure that you understand that the GSA admits that the tribes have Federal Reserve water rights, and we fully intend to respect those Federal Reserve water rights within the document of the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. And we have no issue with those rights or trying to deny the tribes those rights. We have said and fully believe that the tribes are an important part of this community. They're an important part of the groundwater sustainability development, and we would like them to participate. All they have to do is join the party. We've sent the invitation numerous times, and I have documented proof to everything I have just said. In regards to the addendum, our concern in the GSA's letter that we submitted was just that we wanted the commission to not unknowingly set a precedent that might reverberate throughout the state and other RCDs throughout the state, and their ability to continue to develop their groundwater stability plans and help the state bring groundwater into balance throughout the basins in California. That was our main concern, is that we just don't want a precedent set that unknowingly affects stigma throughout the entire state. You know, LAFCO is a big LAFCO and has a lot of power behind it, and you could set a precedence, and that was our main concern. I do want to thank LAFCO staff for their work on this. I know it's been a difficult process. I know it's been a confusing process, and the staff has been so gracious and so patient in working with all the entities that are trying to submit comments and have questions right up until this weekend. Keen was emailing and responding to some questions I had. So I really appreciate the LAFCO staff. That includes the Special District Advisory Committee Commissioner or Chair Thorner and Mr. Beebe and Mr. Bushy and the work that they did and their special task force research. I really appreciate all the hard work that everyone's put into this issue. And finally, I'd just like to state that no matter what, the GSA and its members have always and will always adhere to all regulations that are set forth upon us and be in compliance with anything that any regulatory agency or any legislation puts before us. And we are here to work with all groups as a whole and not exclude anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Mr. Chairman, I need to respond, if I may. Ms. Wright is inaccurate. The tribes were the first ones to step up and commit 400,000. Did they get the money? No, because it fell apart. Ms. Wright is new to this whole process. She was not involved over the years we worked together. So that's inaccurate. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, thank you.
And we've never been told about any kind of voting rights other than ex officio members, contrary to what was stated.
Okay, it sounds like we have a lot of good people working on this. We just need to get you all together. Are there any other questions for Amy before we go to the next speaker? Okay, next speaker, please, Tammy.
The next one I have Robert Hellsliger from the Indian Water Authority.
Okay. Robert, are you on?
I don't see his name on there. Is he on the phone maybe?
Well, we'll move on. We'll come back.
My next speaker is Steve Anderson with Palma Valley Community Service District.
Good morning, Chair Vanderlyn, commissioners. My name is Steve Anderson. I'm an attorney for the Palma Valley Community Services District. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Just wanted to touch on a few points just to make clarification and not to delve too far down the Sigma role, but we heard from Chairman Mazzetti about the water rights that already have been established by the tribe. I just wanted to clarify the commissioners that indeed, after a number of decades of litigation, the Indian Water Authority and its constituent members did establish their rights to surface water in the San Luis Rey River in some extended litigation they had with some agencies upstream. But with respect to their downstream groundwater rights, those are treated separately. And while those certainly do exist, the quantities of water rights they might have downstream have not yet been established. So just wanted to make that distinction for the commissioners, because Sigma is about groundwater. It's not about surface water directly. The second thing that I just wanted to clarify for folks is that the GSA itself has no legal or regulatory authority, as you might imagine, over tribal groundwater rights and how much they might pump. The GSA only has legal authority because it's pursuant to state law over what goes on non-Indian lands, so on private and public property that's not on the reservation, because obviously we can't extend that way. So just wanted to make sure that there's no authority for the GSA to regulate the tribes and the conduct and their groundwater pumping in any way. That's made clear, and that those groundwater rights need to be fully respected, which of course they will be over time, although they're not yet quantified. So we don't know the numbers, but of course those aren't going to be disregarded in any measure. And as Ms. Ray reported here recently, the local agencies have been in they're in the final stages of preparing a joint powers agreement to create a joint powers authority to act as the GSA. There have been public drafts of that document had circulated in the last few weeks on some of these public agency websites of the JPA members or future JPA members. So the tribes are free to see those, and they have indeed been offered voting seats on the JPA board with no monetary contribution expected or anticipated. We understand that they do indeed own 40% of the ground in the area, and it's not our intention to be disrespectful. It's just it's a difficult proposition, you know, where we're at. So it is unfortunate. I agree with Chairman Mazzetti that things didn't work out prior, but we're hoping to get the train back on the tracks and respect everybody's rights. Turning to the addendum, I just wanted to add one thing to that. With respect to Mr. Simons put forward 3 sort of findings or recommendations in his presentation earlier. And one of those had to do with, well, what exactly were the powers that were exercised by the RCD prior to 2000? And I think we've submitted quite a bit of evidence as supported by the working group, the advisory committee working group, that there was quite a bit of water related work that the RCD was undertaking, erosion control, flood control, water conservation work that existed prior to 2000. One thing I wanted to add to that, just so that the commission is aware, is that back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the State Water Resources Control Board had its eyes very much fixated on the Pauma Valley. There was a huge controversy with respect to, gee, is the Pauma Valley subject to State Water Board jurisdiction as surface water, or is it more of a groundwater basin? And so there was an arduous process that went on for many, many years about that, and ultimately ended up with the State Water Board issuing what's referred to as Decision 1645 in the year 2002. And in that decision, what the State Water Board determined was that the Pauma Valley is percolating groundwater. That's the water resource that's there. And that water is percolating groundwater all the way from almost near the surface all the way down to the bedrock, which means that water that's as shallow as just a few feet is considered groundwater. Well, why is that important? Well, it's important because the RCD, all of its activities were done in that groundwater type area. And so these erosion control, flood control, stormwater projects they did was in the groundwater. That's what they were doing both today and prior to 2000. And so to reach a conclusion that they weren't engaged in groundwater activities management prior to 2000 isn't really in keeping with the facts, and it's not in keeping with what the State Water Board, how broad that definition of groundwater is. So I just wanted to add that back to the mix, and thank you very much for the time.
Steve?
Mr. Anderson.
I have a question for Steve. Yeah, Steve. So for the record, Steve, are you advocating for alternative 2 on the vote today?
Yes, I am. I'm not. The Pauma Valley CSD is not in support of the need for the RCD to apply for groundwater management powers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Anderson? Okay, next speaker, please, Tammy.
The next speaker is Gary Arant with Valley Center Municipal Water District.
Morning, Gary.
John.
Morning, Gary.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I got to tell you, I haven't been at some of the GSA meetings for a while, and boy, I'm glad I'm not in that anymore actively. I spent 4 years of my life, I'll never get back, going over the same issues you just heard about. You've got yourselves in the middle of a very complex and contentious issue, as you now know. So just briefly, I think the solution that your staff has come up with is elegant in that it allows the GSA process to move forward to a conclusion, but also it allows for some time. And I really hope that all the interested parties in the basin could get back together again, because before we hit the water rights issue, things were going really well, and hopefully they can all get past that. Valley Center does not produce out of the basin. We do have about 80 property owners representing about 700 acres that we have to be concerned about and the outcome of this process. So I'm very supportive of your staff recommendation.
Thank you, Gary. Are there any questions for Gary? Okay, hearing none. Tammy, would you continue, please?
Sure.
Speaker number 8.
The next one I have Jeremy Jurgis with Waima Municipal Water District.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can, Jeremy.
All right. Good morning, Commission. My name is Jeremy Youngrise. I'm the General Counsel for the Uema Municipal Water District, and I also am one of the folks who tries to provide legal guidance and otherwise for the nascent Pauma Valley GSA. Bottom line for you folks is we've got until January of 2022 to get this groundwater sustainability plan done, and we're just running out of time. And so, above all else, we just want to get our obligations under SGMA completed. And I am respectful for the effort that the LAFCO staff, Linda and Keen also, have made to reach out and to try to, work between competing interests who and there's been some difficult times in the last few years, and I think LAFCO staff has tried to work out what they believe is perhaps a compromise approach, but there's still some problems with it. I'm going to point those out. I'm going to ask the commission that I'm going to recommend that the staff recommendation today, although I think well-intended, probably has the potential to create more problems than it fixes. So I guess the first recommendation we'd make is LAFCO created, with management's recommendation, had the Special District Advisory Committee take a really close look at this issue, because you have people who are running special districts and who have the ability to kind of really dig down into some of the unique issues dealing with water agencies and groundwater management agencies for that matter. And so that process went forward over a couple of months, and the working group came up with a recommendation that since water management, and you can read it, it's very short, but since water management has been occurring, and if you actually look in the June 28th letter from the GSA to the commission, the evidence of what the San Luis Rey RCD has done historically as far as water management is pretty extensive. And so that was the basis for the determination by the advisory committee that, this is just not something that LAFCO necessarily needs to take a position on, because if you're asking them to, if there is no SGMA authority, if there is no authority for RCD to manage groundwater pursuant to SGMA, which is a state water board call, then it would be kind of pointless for the RCD to apply for the power in the first place. The reason they're doing it is because of SGMA, and in order to meet the state requirements to have a GSP in place by 2022. So the other alternative, which we've kind of talked about, is, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit in a minute, is the precedent we're establishing here, because no other LAFCO in the state has done this, none. And you've got hundreds of groundwater sustainability agencies that have formed, and none of them have gone through a LAFCO process. Why is that? And I think the reason why is because the tribes brought this issue to LAFCO and have been very vociferous about LAFCO needing to do something about it. But it hasn't happened anywhere else. And one of the things that's a little disconcerting with the recommendation in the staff report and the addendum is the idea that only agencies that had groundwater management authority via one statute, AB 3030, also known as Part 2.75 of the Water Code, that only agencies that had authority there prior to 2000 are able to continue forth as GSAs without, or I'm sorry, not GSAs, as water management agencies without LAFCO approval. But what the problem with that is, one, nobody else is doing it, so that's a little weird in and of itself. But the other issue is the cited AB 3030 has now been superseded by SGMA. In fact, any AB 3030 plan that was previously done, and the reason it's an issue is because only water suppliers are allowed to do AB 3030 plans. That's how we get into the issue of, okay, well, water supplier could do it, but since an RCD only exercises water management authority, they wouldn't have prior authority. And it's really splitting hairs, but the point is that authority has now been superseded by SGMA. And this RCD since 2017 has been exercising authority as part of a GSA. So it's an active power. And so it's a little confusing why there'd be a contrary finding, but I at least legally, I can understand how they got there. So I would ask, if we're going to go down this path, which is really precedent setting and potentially raises questions as to whether RCD throughout the state can manage groundwater without going through LAFCO, since water conservation districts and water replenishment districts, they're not water suppliers. And so are they now questionable whether they can manage groundwater as a result of, since they were never eligible under AB 3030 to prepare plans? It raises all sorts of potential issues that maybe we should check with the state board first. And that's the point I wanted to make is, to the extent that the commission wants to do something, perhaps it would be wise to defer decision here and first, ask the state board, is what's being proposed here likely to have adverse precedential effect, not only within this basin, but also in other places throughout the state where you have, and there's 10 GSAs where RCDs are participating, and it has real potential to upset those. So, and the last thing I would ask is if the commission decides that they want to go forward with staff's recommendation, as mentioned before, I think it really is a good faith effort by Mr. Simons and his staff to try to come up with a reasonable approach. I think one thing that needs to be done is it needs to be revised to identify erosion prevention and control as an active class, because the evidence there is overwhelming that that's occurred in the June, I don't know, maybe just an oversight that didn't get in there, but that should be added. And also identify runoff control as an active class, because again, this RCD has done extensive projects that meet that criteria. So if we're identifying classes and we're going to go forward with this addendum, we need to have those revisions to make sure that we're on the right track. A couple more points. I know I'm probably out of time.
Mr. Chair, are we going to just allow everyone to, just out of fairness, I mean, we're well over 5 minutes now with the speaker, and I appreciate the speaker's comments, but everybody's just kind of getting unlimited time. I just want to make sure that we're being fair to all of our speakers with the timing. Thank you.
I'll take that under consideration. Go ahead and finish up there, Jeremy.
I sure will. Thank you. I would just to close. Mr. Anderson already touched on these. The door is open for the Indian Water Authority to participate. We reached out to DWR about potentially doing facilitation to bring that back in. They have 2 votes under the JPA if they choose to participate. And Federal Reserve water rights, Mr. Anderson touched on it. Those are identified and adjudicated by a court. The GSP is not the proper role. What we can do, if LAFCO will work with us, is all work together to come up with a good plan for the watershed. And then if we have to go to court in the future, well, then we'll have to do it. But for now, we really want to work together collaboratively with the tribe to develop a plan that's compliant. Thank you, and I apologize if I went over my time.
Yeah, thank you. We will look forward
to Jeremy,
for your participation in the process. Any more questions for Jeremy? No? Tamara, our last speaker listed.
The last speaker is Lloyd Pellman with the San Luis Rey Indian Water Authority.
Morning, Mr. Pellman. Need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Good morning. Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try to make it brief, and I possibly will be able to, because we absolutely agree on behalf of the Indian Water Authority with the way Keene described this at the very beginning. This has taken a lot of twists and turns, and people tried to hide the ball, I think, in the process over the last few months. But it boils down to what Keene was talking about, where you've got 2 statutory schemes. The state defines various items under SGMA and also applies those and administers that law. That's separate from LAFCO with its role with respect to special districts. His recommendation is consistent with the LAFCO statutes, the adopted rules for this LAFCO, which have existed for over 20 years, the municipal service review that this commission has previously approved, and it should be approved at this stage with the addendum. What the special district working group did was to analyze what was going on with an eye towards the categories under SGMA of water supply, water management, and land use responsibility. And they came to a conclusion, true, but that conclusion is one that the state water agencies should be making. And in making that decision, state water agencies would also look to what the authorized activities of each agency would be. Maybe the reason there are other resource conservation districts around the state participating in GSAs is because they have activated those latent powers before. And as far as the state approving this particular resource conservation district to be a part of a GSA, this issue has been bouncing around since at least December. And there's been an invitation for them to submit any written documentation to show that the state has approved this particular RCD to participate in a GSA. And it still hasn't happened. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pellman. Any questions for Mr. Pellman? Okay, we'll go back up to Bobby Graziano. Did he come back on?
Chair,
Hang on. Okay, Barry, go ahead.
I want to make a motion for alternative number 2, please.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Well, I guess we need to have a discussion about it, but I wanted to get on the record as
Well, the second would be.
making a motion for alternative 2.
Yeah, so the second would be for discussion only at this point. Is there no second?
What? Okay.
Second, this is Joe.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Joe.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, second by Joe. Okay. Now we'll go back to the one other person that wasn't there. Let's see, who was that?
Chair, it was Bobby Garzino. I'm not sure if he's on the line.
I think it's Graziano, like the fighter, but
Graziano, yeah.
okay. And who was the other one that wasn't on?
It was Bob Pelsinger from
Okay,
the Indian Water Authority, and I don't see him having been logged on.
okay. All right. Now we have a motion and a second for option number 2.
We having discussion now?
Yes.
Just discussion. Okay. My concern is what the precedent will set for other RCDs in the state. And I would like to instruct the staff to please, let's ask the California State Water Resources Control Board for an opinion on this, please. Our staff to please do that.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Keen, can you weigh in on some of kind of bring us back together here?
It would be my pleasure, and thank you, Chair. So I have a number of thoughts I want to share with the commission based on the comments heard, but I think it would also be helpful to check in with legal counsel, commission counsel Holly Watley on some of the items raised. So if that's okay, Chair, let's defer to Holly.
Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. I kept a running list of things, a couple of which I think I can address, and they really echo what is in the staff report and what Keen has talked about. And our position is that to the extent the RCD is exercising a power that they were not exercising before 2000, they would need to apply to activate that latent power with LAFCO. And again, this is without taking any position or assuming anything about what the state would conclude about the functions and classes identified in this amendment, whether those would satisfy the water management responsibilities portion of SGMA and who can be in a GSA. So again, we're separating those two things. We are the amendment, and the staff report is really just coming down where we would even if there were no GSA issues. If a special district is exercising power that they did not have before 2000, and it wasn't already listed as an active power, just like any other special district, they do need to apply to LAFCO to activate that latent power. And I'm happy to answer any other questions as they come forward, but I'll
Holly, Holly, what would you say to those other RCDs that haven't applied to LAFCO then? Are you answering that question? I'm sorry.
What other RCDs?
Well, there are apparently a lot of RCDs that are functioning through water sustainability acts throughout the state. Are there not?
What I would say to that is going to be
GSA.
a special district by special district analysis. So we, because the analysis of whether any special district has to activate a latent power, it requires looking back to see what they, what functions and classes they were doing and that have been activated. So without looking at all of the RCDs that are functioning as GSAs throughout the rest of the state, we can't answer that. It could well be that they were doing things that qualify as water management responsibilities.
This kind of does reinforce my concern about setting a precedent now then. Okay, anyway, I've said it.
Barry and others, please wait to be recognized before you jump in.
Sure, absolutely.
Jim, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. You know, what's before us today is the Upper San Luis Rey Resource Conservation District. Should they or should they not be as part of this groundwater the GSA, the Groundwater Sustainability Agency? All LAFCO is doing is asking them to apply. And so if they apply, I would imagine their chances of being, I'm not sure if they'd be accepted or not, but I would imagine their chances are pretty good at being accepted. We're just asking them to go through the process that LAFCO has provided. This alternative 2 basically is continue the item and request additional information from the staff and from state. And I respect, that opinion, Mr. Willis, but we got to get moving on this thing. We got a timeline of January of 2022. The recommendation by staff is trying to bring us all together, making sure all our, I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And I think the recommendation by staff is good to keep, everybody at the table, just, asking the Resource Conservation District to apply. So I'm going to make a substitute motion that we go ahead and approve staff's recommendation. I want to thank all the speakers on this item. The Resource Conservation Districts are doing great work for the communities, and for the Upper San Luis Rey Resource Conservation District is no exception. They want to be involved. And I think they can be part of the process and part of the solution. There's just, I guess it's been pointed out, they haven't gone through the LAFCO process. And we're here representing LAFCO. We got our LAFCO hats on today. So our executive director has determined that the Upper San Luis Rey Conservation District has not gone through the appropriate process to participate. So let them go through the process and apply. Doesn't mean they can't still come to the table or can't still come to the meetings, but have them apply, get through the process, and let's do this. Because if we just continue this item, it's just going to be more of this and more spinning of wheels, and I'd like to see us move on. So I'm going to make a substitute motion to accept the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, I thought we have to deal with the first motion first before we go to another one.
Well, we'll go back to the motion maker of the first motion. You want to reconsider your motion, or do we vote on it first?
No, I think we should vote on the motion we did first, but I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Motion is voted on first. If the majority approves the substitute motion, then the first motion that Commissioner Willis put forth is moot. There's no vote on that because it would have failed.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Could I just respond though to
Let's go ahead.
Supervisor Jim Desmond, is that I think hearing from the State Water Resource Control Board is an important issue before we move forward with this.
Well,
we can do that concurrently.
Getting any response in a timely fashion from the state board. We've got less than a year to get this GSP in place, and it's going to take longer than tomorrow to get the state board to respond. So I'm in favor of getting a clarification, but I'm not in favor of holding this process up. And then my other question to our executive officer is, if the RCD does say, fine, we will make application for latent powers, they get that application in this week, what's the timeline in order for it to come back to the commission?
Thank you. Through the chair, Commissioner McKenzie, if we were to receive an application, given the heightened interest, we will get this back to the commission as soon as possible. But it is a process. but we would expedite the best we can.
Okay, any other?
Well, are we looking
questions?
at next month or are we looking at June, July,
So
August, September?
there is an external factor here that I can't control. One is the amount of time it takes the district to adopt a resolution with a plan of service that is specified not in our policies, but under statute. And then there is also the mandatory check-in with the county to confirm a property tax exchange does not need to be addressed. So those variables noted, we could probably get this back within 40 to 60 days. But if I could, Chair, I think I have some off comments that might help this motion, the substitute motion, and clarify staff's thinking here. Would that be okay, Chair, if I could go
Yes,
ahead?
Please do, give us some clarification.
Very good. So with respect to the question that board member Lyle, Andy Lyle had asked originally to me, asking, confirming that so long as Upper San Luis Rey RCD limits its groundwater activities to the GSA, does it have a problem with LAFCO? No problem with LAFCO. You stick to the GSA, Upper San Luis Rey RCD, LAFCO's not going out and code enforcing because we just said in this addendum, we defer to the state. So that's the first issue. And then this question about precedent. Jeremy's brought it up and Commissioner Willis has raised it as a concern. Are we creating a precedent that affects other RCDs across the state? I don't know that to be true. We are addressing a very specific set of local circumstances that I would be surprised played themselves out in any other part of the state. And then last but not least, Jeremy had mentioned understandably, hey, we're running out of time for the GSP. If you go down this addendum, it's going to add to it. I would take the opposite approach, and Commissioner Desmond made this point salient. We are trying to clear the picture by saying LAFCO takes no issue with the GSA. We are saying out loud, do what you want with the GSA, defer to the state. Yes, we are recommending that the district apply to LAFCO to harmonize whatever authorization it has through Sigma with LAFCO, but it does not affect in any way them proceeding with the GSA. I think it actually helps clear the path because we're saying we're not involved. So I wanted to offer that up as context. So Chair, thank you so much for indulging the additional thoughts.
Well, thank you. That's good clarification for us. Do we need to talk about anything else before we call for the question on the substitute motion? Okay, so roll call, Tammy, on the substitute motion. First of all, can someone summarize that so we know where we are? It's basically the staff recommendation, is that correct?
Yes, on the
Correct.
That's included in the agenda. Chris?
Yes, that's correct. As a seconder.
The seconder, okay. Call for the roll call vote, please, Tammy.
For the record, this is for the substitute
Substitute
motion.
motion, which is the staff recommendation in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Vanderline,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Cates,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
No.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
alternate Commissioner McNamara.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 6 in favor, 2 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, so the first motion then is no longer in existence, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
I enjoyed the debate, everybody, even though I'm on the wrong side here. I enjoyed the debate. Thank
we're
you.
not on the wrong side, we just have a different opinion, that's all. That's what it's here. I think this is one of the first,
Well, I don't know if it's the wrong side. I'm on the wrong side of winning.
I think this is right, this is one of the first non-unanimous votes we've had in quite some time. And
True.
that's a good discussion. are we squared away here, Holly? Do we need to do anything else on this? No? Okay. So I think we've gone through all the speakers that were on board. So
7C, I think it was, so on 7C.
7C, which is the Voluntary Separation Incentive Program. Before we start the discussion, I just want to say that I've been talking with Keen about this regarding the purpose and how it could be a benefit. I think, seems to me it's a win-win situation. And I think it's clean and pure as far as providing an opportunity for our long-serving employees to take advantage of a kind of an early out program like the police. I now have what they call a 5-year drop plan. This is not quite the same, but it does provide some opportunity for our employees, I think. So with that said, Keen, will you go through this for us?
Sure, and I'll be quick. I think, Chair, you gave a very good summary of what is before the commission, and that is a one-time voluntary program available to our employees who on their own would otherwise be thinking about separating from LAFCO employment and being able to get a lump sum payment to do so now. And in doing so, going back to the chair's comment of creating a win-win. And in particular, staff is looking ahead, not so much to this most immediate fiscal year, but more so going further into the upcoming fiscal year and then getting ready for fiscal year 22-23. And in particular, having this program available to us. And I am aware that at least one employee is interested in intending to apply. It creates the commission, or it gives the commission some flexibility under two different scenarios, right? So if the economic recovery that is in place right now holds, well, great. That means we just have that much more flexibility in redirecting our resources come fiscal year 23. Conversely, if the economic recovery stalls for whatever reason or goes south, well, importantly, commission, this tool potentially gives us some additional buffer, if you will, ahead of making more draconian decisions. So again, the idea is for those employees interested, it gives them a financial incentive to do so now. It gives us a little more flexibility going forward. And it's 100% voluntary on the part of employees. So with that, I'll defer to the staff report for the details, but I am looking for commission approval today.
Okay. Any questions of Keen at this point? No, there is no formal staff report, right?
Yeah, there is.
There is a staff report and my verbal stance.
Okay, got it.
I would.
Joe, did you
go ahead. Sorry, I had my hand up, but I'll wait.
Okay, thank you.
Do you see my hand up, Andy? Do you ever see my hand up? Just out of curiosity.
I do, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's after the fact, but I do see it. Joe, go ahead, please.
Okay, you want me to go, or is it Joe?
It's Joe. I'm looking at Joe. Can you hear me, Joe?
No, I had nothing on this other than I will make the motion.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say sorry.
Hang on, Barry. Go ahead and finish, Joe.
Tony, what's going on?
Joe, did you say you want to make a motion for approval?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
The second, is that from you, Jim?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes. Okay, so my major concern with this, I did speak to Keen, you and I already spoke about it, is my concern that this was any kind of pressure in any way to the employee. I want to make that it's voluntary, it's temporary, and so I've resolved that issue with me. So I'm ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Chair, I would suggest you check and see if there's any public comment on this.
Okay.
First.
Thank you, Holly. Is there any public comment up from either Tammy or Erica?
Chair, I have not received any public comments for this item.
Okay, Erica, have you gotten anything on this item?
No, no public comment.
Okay, thank you for that stall there.
Chair, I have
Rushing, Holly. Yes, I'm sorry.
clarification. If I could find my name on here, I would have raised my hand. Commissioner Willis indicated that this was temporary.
Temporary measure. That's my understanding.
It is a one-time program that we would have a 4-week application window for. So yes.
Okay, so this is just for those employees that we have today that have 5 years plus. This isn't a
Too
program
bad this doesn't have a chat.
continuing on.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Was you, Mary? Did you have a comment?
No, I was making an off comment and didn't realize my mic was on.
Oh, I was wondering what that was.
All right, thank you. So nothing else. Please call the roll. Tammy?
That's funny, Mary.
Sure, Chair. Commissioner Salas,
Aye. I was
Commissioner
looking for
Willis?
the chat function.
Commissioner Willis,
Oh, aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Cates,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Alternate Commissioner McNair.
Aye.
Have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We do have a verbal report on a meeting we had Friday regarding future space for our office. Chris, can you summarize your thoughts on what we discussed on Friday?
So myself and the chair participated in the working group regarding the new space for staff and the potential for leasing. We heard a verbal report from a broker that our executive officer has been working with in regards to potential rates as well as different locations that could fill the space needs, including the future space needs of staff moving forward. It was a good report in terms of where we're at from a market standpoint. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think the special committee gave direction to Keene to move forward to determine what locations would be best, as well as the space that would be needed, and then also how that would interact with the budget that we have adopted as a commission as well, too, to ensure that we're not going out of bounds with those cost elements. But there are other externalities at play, including growth of staff, as well as locations that will determine what is the best process moving forward. I think it was determined as well, too, that we're not at a position right now to buy outright any building, but also evaluate any potential lease-to-own options that may be out there as well, too. So if I miss anything, Chair, please fill in any gaps that I may have missed.
Thank you, Chris. That was a very concise report. Keene, from the staff perspective, what do you have for us?
I actually have nothing on my end, but I would ask Holly to jump in with a couple of tidbits of interest for the commission.
Sure. The first one is I had a question at the last meeting regarding the ability of commissioners to interact on social media. And we did circulate a memo that sort of outlined what you can do on that. And just the Cliff Note version is that there is a law in place that took effect this year where commissioners or those on a legislative body can interact with the public on social media, can respond to questions, can retweet or give a thumbs up on certain things without running afoul of the Brown Act. That said, if you happen to see one of the commissioners interacting with the public on social media, the commissioner cannot then retweet or give thumbs up to that commissioner's interaction on social media. So the short version is you can interact with social media with the public, but you should not interact on social media with each other. There's more details in the material that I circulated. The second thing is I wanted to alert you that after the agenda packet went out, or around that same time, we did receive a decision from the Court of Appeal on one of the two pending appeals regarding the Julian Cuimaca Fire Protection District dissolution. It was on the Brown Act case. And in that, the association and then the district were claiming that there was a Brown Act violation related to the district's adopting a resolution to apply for dissolution to LAFCO. You'll recall we intervened in that action with the county. We got a favorable ruling from the trial court, and the Court of Appeal affirmed it. And did, as part of affirming it, find that the association and the district really waited too long to try to bring that matter to trial. They waited until after LAFCO had approved it. They waited until after the protest proceeding. And most importantly, they waited until after the voters had voted to confirm the dissolution. And the Court of Appeal said, you just can't wait around that long before doing that. And there is a, for those that are interested, I can send you the opinion. The opinion did take a dim view of some of the, what they called, and I'm quoting, underhanded tactics that were engaged in after the vote by the district to try to get this Brown Act judgment in place. So we have one more appeal still pending. That's on the validation action. But of course, our position is that the ruling in this Brown Act action should take care of that one. But we'll see. So good news.
Maybe by 2030, it'll be resolved.
Maybe so.
Okay, thank you. Holly, are there any questions for Holly? Joe, did you have your hand up? I see your yellow hand in the corner there.
Mine's blue. Yes, I had a question of Commissioner Kate. Did the subcommittee give any direction to the broker as to the area within the county, or did you say just look somewhere between San Ysidro and Fox and San Diego and El Cajon?
Great question. Thank you, Commissioner. I believe some of the options that were presented were looking at the downtown area as well as the Bankers Hill area. I did raise the point that it would be good for staff to have understanding about the impacts of a potential move. Moving to downtown or Bankers Hill would be a change, and so obviously it'd be good to understand the impacts from a staff perspective as well too. But those are the two options that are currently being evaluated.
So you're not looking at any other place other than downtown, which I'm going to assume real estate is more expensive there than say up in the Mira Mesa area, or kind of away from downtown.
So that was why we also looked at Bankers Hill, which is technically, you would say, not in the downtown core, but neighboring, but still similar amenities that are available. So those are part of the options that are going to be presented to us. And then I would imagine if other things come forward, the executive officer has the ability to bring those options forward as well too.
My question, I have my hand up also.
I know you did, Barry. I see it now. Thank you.
Okay. May I go? Okay.
Yes.
Chris, what I was wondering, did you talk about pursue owning the building? I'm sorry, did you cover that?
There was a discussion about outright buying of a building, and it was determined that is not the best path forward at this point. But one of the options that the chair and I both expressed interest to the broker to look at is the potential for a lease to own arrangements, so that there could be ownership stake in there. But at this point, in terms of outright purchasing a building, it would not be financially feasible to do that.
Okay, but I'm sorry. You can get a property, I don't know, it's probably pretty competitive right now and build a building pretty cheap, can't you? I'm
So that's, we
questioning you on this.
Our broker was determining that we are not in the position at this point to outright purchase a building at this point from a cost standpoint. But again, looking at the lease to own option would be something that could be evaluated and determine if that makes financial sense to do that. But right now, taking out debt and actually purchasing a property is not the best path forward.
Okay.
We're also open to looking at negotiations with the county in terms of seeing where we are, but that's all in, right now it's pretty open shelf here in terms of what we're looking at. So if commissioners have thoughts and ideas, they can forward it to any member of the ad hoc committee or direct to Keene. So and we're also going to have staff as part of this discussion. Recognize that right now, I believe we're paying what, about $75,000 a year, Keene, to the county?
A little more, but yeah, in that ballpark.
Okay, so it's an open slate. We'll keep you informed on this whole issue. There's no real, well, let's see, when is our lease due?
So our lease right now is due or comes to an end late August of 21. I'm comfortable we've been good enough tenants. If the ad hoc directs, I'm sure we could get an extension as we look at our options. But August 21st of 21 is actually when our lease is up.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this subject then? Okay, at the last meeting, Barry, I think we talked about a commissioner starting to attend the Special District Advisory Committee meetings.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you might be able to do that. Have you been able to do it?
I was able to catch most of it the last time. About half of it I was on my phone, and then I was finally able to get to my laptop and then actually come on Zoom. So yes, it was very, very, I'm glad I participated, and it was good to get to know more of the players involved on that. So yes, I want to attend further ones.
All right, Keene, I think it would be a good gesture and in order for us to send a thank you note to the advisory committee with all the work that they did on item 7B.
Will do.
Okay. Anything else to come before us today?
We are good to go other than your commission. If there's right now we are at number 9, commissioner announcements, request for future items.
Okay, thank you. Are there any?
Joe's got her hand up. Joe's got her hand up.
Joe, please.
Well, my question was back to Commissioner Willis as to what he learned sitting in on the advisory committee.
Oh my God, I'm being tested. Oh, okay. Anyway, no, it's
Step up.
No, I don't know that I'm really specific on this, but it was very interesting to see the reason how you guys operated, and just to see it from a totally different angle than being the actual commissioner and taking the votes. I don't know that I really have one specific item that impressed me, but it was very interesting, the different process that you guys had.
Okay.
And Kim Thorne, I had not heard Kim Thorne before, and I've talked to Kim Thorne since, and so it's been a great process.
Thank you for being our liaison to that. That committee has been working behind the scenes for a long time, and I don't think they get recognized. And some of the people that are serving on the commission now have served on the advisory committee for quite some time. There used to be a city advisory committee. Is that what's still in place or not, Keene?
Wonderful timing, Chair. Yes, and in fact, we will be meeting with the City Advisory Committee this Friday. It will be online for those who are interested in watching, and we're going to talk about the LAFCO budget with the city managers.
Oh, good idea.
When is the next meeting, by the way, so I can get on my calendar? Could you?
I'll defer to Tammy as to the specific time this Friday of the city's advisory committee, or Ruth if she's on. But the next special district advisory committee isn't going to be until September, the third Friday.
Oh, okay.
We meet quarterly for the districts. We meet twice a year for the cities.
Okay, good job. Yeah, please let them know in the letter that we appreciate what they do. That's a lot of legwork that they do in taking care of issues, or at least addressing issues that kind of set the process for us to make a good decision on whatever the topics are. Okay, so is that it for today then, King?
We are good to go with an adjournment at your call.
Okay, Joel, are you still on?
Yeah. Why?
I am.
Joel, welcome aboard, Joel.
I thought he meant Joel.
Yeah, I just couldn't get my buttons fast enough.
Well, thanks for being on. Hope you enjoyed your inauguration here.
I did, and thank you for the warm welcome.
You're welcome. And thanks again for your tolerance here. I was letting that kind of run amok a little bit on some of the comments, but my philosophy is that we have them here, and this is a pretty touchy issue, so why not let them vent a little bit, if you will. So hopefully it didn't bore you to death, and I felt like we made some good decisions, and I really appreciate the fact that we didn't have a unanimous vote this time on the item 7C. So anything else to come before us? If not, well, God bless you all, and see you next month.
Thank you, Andy.
Be safe. See, how do I